Hello everyone, it's Christine from Christine's Stamping Spot, back with you for another Mystery Monday video and project today. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. So today we are going to take a look at the Inked and Tiled stamp set. This is a new stamp set in our annual catalog, and it's actually part of a suite. If you can see this on camera, it starts on page 94. So it is part of a suite. So you have the stamp set. You can get it as a bundle with 2 punches, and the suite would also include the 6x6 designer paper and some of this Lost Lagoon ribbon. So you can purchase the suite all together, or you can just purchase the items individually, or the stamp set and punches as a bundle. They're 2 full-size stamps that you get in there. Okay, so we are going to take a look at the stamp set and the designer paper today, and I'll show you our project. So this is the card we are going to make. I made this card when I attended Backstage, Stampin' Up's Backstage conference in Las Vegas, the end of August. A typical activity at any Stampin' Up event is swapping or trading. So I decided to participate in 2 different swaps. One was a general swap where you just made multiples of the same card, and I think I made about 25 of these, and you just traded with other demonstrators. They gave you their sample, you gave them their sample, and at the end of the day, you've got 25 different cards. And so this is the one I did for that. And then I also participate in a fun fold swap where your card has to have some sort of a fun fold element to it. And I guess this card would have qualified for that too, because it is kind of a fun fold. It kind of opens a little different than your normal card would. But I did use it just in the general swap. But I have a couple of other samples from some of the fun fold swaps using this set that I'll share with you at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so let's get started. So this is the inked, actually the suite itself is called Inked Botanicals, and the stamp set is Inked and Tiled. So we are going to start, I've just pre-cut some of my pieces here. We're going to start with a piece of Pool Party cardstock. And I will post all of these measurements for you, but this is cut at 8.5 by 5.5, like a normal card base. And then it's scored at 1 3/8 and 5 5/8. Okay, so this is what's going to make your little fold. You're just going to burnish on those lines with your bone folder just to give it a nice crisp edge. And then we're going to start decorating our base. So I have an insert that we will put on the inside. This is just our normal basic white, cut 5 1/4 by 4. And I'll maybe stamp an image on this a little bit later if I don't forget, but I just want to put this in for now. Okay, so there's your insert, so you can do your message or your stamping on there. And then on the outside, we're going to use some of that Inked Botanicals designer paper. Now, I have some of it left after cutting a whole bunch of it up for my swaps. So you can imagine these were 6x6 pieces. So this was one pattern, the checkers, and different ones on the back. And then it had some sort of stripes. Some of these were images on the back. So I made kind of, using different DSP for a number of the swaps because there just wasn't enough in one package to do them all the same, but that's okay. That made them all a little bit different and interesting. And this is some of the rest of it here. So quite an interesting palette of colors. It says it uses Calypso Coral, Crushed Curry, Lost Lagoon, Petal Pink, and Pool Party. So those are the colors that are in this designer paper. So you can pick one of those as your jump off point for your base and kind of how you might like to coordinate some of the colors, but any of the colors would work together with this paper. Okay, so we're going to switch ours up a bit. This was my sample here with this part of the DSP, but I'm going to switch it up to this pattern. So you're going to put 2 panels here. So I will post these measurements too, but this DSP is cut at 5 1/4 by 2 5/8, and this one is 5 1/4 by 1 1/4. So we will just put those on our panels. And so the large one, and then we will do a smaller one here on the outside. And that's what's nice about this designer paper. You can just have one base, one standard base or template, and just cut up different pieces of that DSP and just apply them. And you have the same fold or the same base, but they all look different because the DSP is so different, right? Okay, so we have that. So now we have to do a bit of stamping here. So I'm going to pull out a piece of basic white. And this is cut at 5 by 2 1/4, I believe. Now, I'm going to use this image here in the stamp set, but I want my flowers and my stem to be different colors, so I don't want to just stamp it in one color of ink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up my stamp here with some markers. So I pulled out my Calypso Coral and my Pool Party marker. These are our old style markers, but we have apparently some fantastic new styled markers that are in the new catalog. So here's my stamp. So I'm going to use, there's the fine tip and the brush tip. So I'm going to use the brush tip to ink up the blooms here, the flowers on the stamp. And just try to give it a good bit of coverage. Okay, and then I'm going to use Pool Party, which isn't really green stems, but I wanted it to go with the color palette. So we're just going to do our stems in Pool Party. So you're just going to ink those up with your marker as well. It's just another way to ink up our stamps and another way to use our markers, which is great. It's always nice to know you can use our products for different things in different ways. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So then I'm just going to huff on it a little bit to re-moisten the ink. And then press this down. If you want to do it at an angle, you can. Straight up, it's up to you. I'm going to put mine about here. Just give it a firm, and there you go. There is your image with 2 different inks. Now this stamp set, you'll notice here, it's not completely filled in, right? Like you have some white showing through, but that is how this stamp was designed. It's meant to give it a little bit of texture, so to speak. So don't panic if you see it coming out like that. Oh my gosh, I missed all the ink. You didn't. It's just that is the way this particular stamp was designed, to give it a little bit of a watercolor almost look, right? So now on my sample, you'll notice I ran it through an embossing folder. So I went ahead and did that. And what I did was I used the Exposed Brick 3D embossing folder. Now, a little tip or trick, I don't know if you'll want to do this or you'll find this helpful, but I was always one that would open all of my dies, or not my dies, my embossing folders, you know, with this pouch, you know, how they come. But I found over time, because I love to keep all of my folders, like they would rip and tear, and then my thing is a mess. So what I started doing is I just snipped off with my scissors. I just snipped off the very tiniest edge of this plastic sleeve, and then I can just pull out my folder and I can slide it back in without ripping any of that plastic. So it's all still in one piece when it's said and done. Over time, it could still rip, but I just thought, you know what, this is just way better. And then I don't have to take out the paper, and maybe it's lazy on my part. I don't know. But anyways, try it. You might like it. Okay, so this is the exposed brick. Now it's very textured. I don't know if you can see that. So a tip when you're putting your image in, you'll see there's a black line here at the front. So a good way to make sure, now this one probably doesn't really matter as much, although you might want your bricks to go fairly straight. You can take your image and you're just going to, let's see if I can see this line from the inside here. You're going to line the bottom part of your cardstock with that line. See how I did that? It's kind of even with this line at the bottom, and that should make for even placement in your embossing folder. So just use that as a guide. You may not need it all the time with different embossing folders, some that it really doesn't matter, but if there is some sort of a pattern or something you would like to go nice and straight, just remember that line is there to help you. Okay, so what I did is I ran this through my die cutting machine, and when it came out like this. So you'll see it's got a little bit of that exposed brick there, and it kind of, you still see the image, but it just gives them a different texture and a different look. Okay, so we are going to put that here on the front. Okay, so we'll center that on this designer paper. Okay, so you've got the coral coming from the coral, the pool party. It's sort of all coordinating a little bit, right? Okay, so then what we have to do is our greeting. So on this one, I did just a note, but this has some really great sentiments. You've got happy birthday, hello friend, lots of love, just a note, congratulations, and thank you. So really for a lot of different occasions. You could even use it for sympathy, I would think too. So what I'm going to do is I am going to flag these, and the image I'm going to do this time is happy birthday. So I have the measure, I'll post the measurements for these two pieces. I have one pool party and one is basic white. So for this you could use your marker to ink up your image if you wanted, but I'll just use the stamp pad here. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp this, maybe a little more, well, I guess sort of centered a little bit to the right, like so. There's my happy birthday. And while I'm stamping, I think I will stamp this little flower image on the inside. So I pulled just the single flower image from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it off because I don't want it super dark. I just want it to be kind of subtle, kind of like that on the inside. And then you can still write your greeting here. Okay, so now to get those flags, I'm going to use our Banners Pick a Punch. So you have two different options for your flag, either going in or as a point. So let's do this base first. So I'm just going to slide it in, and I like to flip it over to see that it's centered. You can just adjust as you, and you'll see that it's fairly centered in there. I'm going to give it a punch. I'm going to do the same with the happy birthday. Now you can do this before you stamp if you want, and that way you wouldn't accidentally be punching off some of your greeting. But I think that should be all right. Okay, and then I'm just going to layer these on top of each other. And I'm going to line up the end here and just center this on the pool party. So you'll see it's like this. I hope I'm not doing this off camera. I apologize. And then I'm just going to tuck this piece down and attach this on here with a couple of dimensionals just here at the end. So I'll use some, I guess I could use regular, you could use minis, whatever you like, and just at the very end. You don't want to go all the way or it's going to seal your card closed and they won't be able to open it. So let's just put this maybe up a little bit. I don't want to cover too much of the flower, but just here. And then that way they can still open the flap. And then just for some bling, these are our 22-24 in color pearls. Now, I did the same. I sliced open the side just to pull these out. And take your pick. So I'm going to use this color. Okay, what are these colors? Oh, our papaya. Yes, so this, okay, now I'm not sure exactly what this. Orchid Oasis and Starry Sky, Sweet Sorbet, and this one is Tranquil Tide, right? No, not Tranquil Tide, that's our old color. Something Tide. You guys can write it in the comments if you happen to remember. Oh my gosh, my memory today. Ooh. Oops, there we go. Now these are self-adhesive, which is perfect. So you can add as many as you want. I'm just gonna put 2. And there is your card. So happy birthday, and then you can still write your greeting in there. So a simple fun fold and a good way to, you know, add a little bit of texture and different things with that embossing folder. So that's our video project for today. Now I am going to show you those fun fold cards I got in the swap. Now, let's see. This is one. This is from Nancy Thompson, who is in New York. And here you'll see she used the punch. These are from the punch, 2 of the images, and she used the same designer paper. And this is the other punch, the star. And what makes hers a fun fold is you open the top and open the bottom. And she's got room for her message there in the center. So that's kind of a fun one, using some of those crushed curry she pulled out of the DSP, right? So that's one form of fun fold from Nancy. This is another one. Now this is from a French demonstrator, and I'm not sure where, if she's in Canada or from overseas. Caroline Marion. Facebook Creations Care. No, Creations Care is her Facebook page. So again, she's used the suite. Now she's used this ribbon here too that is part of the suite, and then she's added a little bit of bling. But again, she inked up her stamp similar to what we did, except maybe used Lost Lagoon. I think this is Lost Lagoon or yes, must be. And then hers you open like this, and then she put a little greeting in French there, and then you can write more there. So that makes hers a fun fold. Oh, and you can stand it up, so it's like an easel card fun fold. Ha! Look at that. Doesn't that make it fun? So your basic focal image stands out in the center, or yeah, and then you just pop it up like this, and it all fits flat into an envelope. So that's pretty cool. So that's a nice fun fold. Thank you, Caroline. And then our last one I found in my swaps was from Carmen McNamara. She's also from the US. And here again, she's used some of that ribbon. She's also embossed her image here, although she did it all in one stamp, but she used a different embossing folder and that DSP. And hers stands up too, like an easel card. So if you can see this on the camera that way, but it does stand up. So that's always nice. Your focal point is right in the center. So those are just a couple of different ideas of what to do with our inked and tiled stamp. So I hope you enjoyed that video today. And I do have a host code for September, XPNJ6UBS. And you can use that on my website if you like at christineludwig.stampinup.net. And you can also follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Pinterest at Christine Stamping Spot. I will post this video on YouTube later today. And so if you'd like to review it or re-see it, you're welcome to check that out too. So thanks for joining me today, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye for now.